Is it working as it's supposed to? I think so.
Is it working as it's supposed to?
Is now I can now hear my voice.
Working as it's supposed to? Is now I can now hear.
That's good. Can I see me? I can. Hello, Roman. How are you doing? Hello, Spike. No, you have an echo. Echo. That's gone now. Yes. Yeah, fixing the sound led to an echo and then it went gone. So I've been having a fun morning. After I finished packing some stuff up and sorting all that sort of things up, I then decided to go and have a wander around and finally look through the list of some of the people which the lovely people at World of Warships have been saying, you might want to check these out. These people play pretty historically accurately on Twitch, so I've ended up following a couple new people today, just because they looked pretty good. They looked like they were doing quite a lot of historical accurate stuff, and there's some interesting stuff going on. Got to chat away. How's everyone doing? How goes the worlds of Jonathan and Paul and Steve and Wayne and Runon? How's the world going today? And thank you, Runon, for being subscribed for 12 months. Question I actually got asked the other day is, why do I never do World of Warships on stream? And the answer is this. As much as I enjoy it as a personal game to relax to, for me, when I'm trying to teach history, because of the way it's set up, it's a great tool for learning history, it's not a great tool for demonstrating history. It's a great tool for seeing ships and seeing what might have been, and therefore for learning history. But because it's completely ahistorical gameplay, it's really not great. Hello, Loki! You see, Wayne, I know Loki's really here to see if the fluffy research assistants are here. And they're looking forward to the new office where they're going to have a sofa. Terraforming Mars for a day. How's that been going? How's Helldivers imploding today, Renan? Hey, Killerben, how you doing? I did make a battleship the librarian, didn't I? And to refit. Oh, good lord, Runon, why would they do that? Why would they do that? The weather here is so delightful I'm hiding from the angry sun rays. Well, that happens to everyone eventually. As someone, but mm-hmm. So basically, Sony have shot themselves in the foot. This is not unusual with mega corporations occasionally. That quite often, probably seeking a small profit, to increase their profit margins by what would have been a small bit. They have managed to lose a lot of money in other ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds sensible. If anyone's wondering, yes, I am slowly refilling all my battleships to the latest standard. Because I am that kind of evil. I've got fairly good relations. It's almost as if everyone's picked up on the size of my navy and gone, you know what? Yeah, this might not be a good idea. Mm. I'm sure the 1,000 submarines are nothing to do with the problem people are having with me. Let's check the finances. Yeah, terraforming Mars. I think I've got that on my phone. It's one of my waste a train journey games. It's fairly decent. It can waste a train journey. I can testify to that. Researching. That's always nice. It's not really a factor I'm worried about at the moment. And what's the gun layout doing? Advanced bulkhead protection. That's always useful. Naval communications, what's that up? Oh, yes. Definitely putting 6 submarines in a group. Happy to do that. Happy to start letting wolf packs go ranging. And then there's electromagnetic minesweeping. Look, this might surprise you all, but me and Gareth have done quite a few train journeys together. When it was one of the things when we did the train from Sydney to Canberra and a few other things, and we're the train nerds of the group, definitely. So we're looking forward to the train journey. Drac is frantically trying to get out of at least one of the 18-hour train journeys, and Dan is resigned to it. He'll have fun though. And of course, if our long-term plan of going to Japan comes to fruition, there'll be lots of train journeys for me and Gareth to enjoy. Lots of train journeys. Oh. Oh, yes. Never let the train nerds have the control of the planning the route. Not only are they letting us do that, they're letting us handle the bookings. This is a terrible, terrible policy. A terrible policy. Look, Renan, the whole thing is about the electrical horror stories is its preparation. Because the more of them you see, the more that when you one day walk in and find yourself in such a situation, instead of being so horrified you run from the room screaming, you will instead be prepared for it. You will see it, and you will go, I have been shielded from harm from this. You know, that's the point of sending you them. It's to help you, it's to protect you. I do not torture my admins. Remember, if Mr. Clark runs on PC, let her know about this if she's not already informed. Apparently UK verification rules are somewhat invasive. Well, I haven't. She obviously hasn't found them too invasive because she hasn't complained about them yet. And she and I have similar sleeping patterns, so I do know she was enjoying herself with Helldivers at some point early hours of this morning. That was certainly what she was up to. So she seemed to be okay then. So either it didn't affect her then, or she'd already gone through it and just... yeah. There again, who knows? She's... Okay. Oh, good lord. Her in the first-person shooter. I made the critical mistake of actually watching her play it, and she has reached the point where she is farming bots. She's literally farming the bots, I swear. And I know there are some people who are farming the aliens in the game. I swear, my mum's farming the bots. Honestly, that's the only way to explain it. She's just farming them for HP. So I'm just mothballing some of my older destroyers so I can make sure my newer ones are at sea, getting experience and earning their way up. But I don't want to necessarily get rid of them all until I've replaced them because, well, I need a numerical advantage over the Americans. They're a bit annoying if I don't have a numerical advantage over them. So don't actually give me enough crew. Da 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 da. Hi, Leslie. Ah, hello, Leslie. Now I can see you. I got you in the chat. Now, let's see. Ooh. I have to go to this chat, don't I? I do, because if I don't do it through this chat, it doesn't like me. Oh, I can now manage suspicious users, but I can also mod the Leslie. And so that is what I have done. I have modded the Leslie. Leslie is now mod. So it standardized across all Discord, everything. Oh, caramba. Oh. The train journey with Garrus will be fun. We have a lot of fun. We honestly, it's one of the interesting things that it's one of the things with the ship-shaped trip to Scandinavia. If it all takes place as planned, we're adding in another person into the group coming with us because we need a specific skill set, and I think you're gonna like them. Honestly, do. But it was finding someone who would fit with the group, who would not upset the balance in the group, if that makes sense. And yeah, we quickly we have found someone, and they really do fit with the group. They really did make it all go very nicely when chatting with them, and everyone seemed very happy and to like them. So yeah, that should all work out fine. That's always my worry whenever I organise these things. You know, how is it going to work? How's it going to work with the new people? Whether it's still going to set out the same dynamic, and yeah, I think it will do if this person comes along. Paul, as Jonathan says, when you said make a point poll. Okay, I'm gonna have to work out what to do with these points, aren't I? Because I have. Okay, what are these points and what do they do? Okay, Alright, so what I'm going to do is, while I'm on the journey with Gareth, I'm going to hand him, Gareth, I'm going to hand him my Twitch account and go, set this up and fix it. All those who think that's a good idea, put yay in chats. That's Y-A-Y. All those who think me just going, I'm not sure what to do here, I'm going to hand it over to Gareth, put yay in chat. Yep, I will tell him he's been volunteered. Right then. We haven't got a war. It's annoying from an economic perspective. But I can survive that one. Technically, I'm Leslie Mark III. Look, I am considering doing an emoji of a Leslie stare. Okay? I am considering doing that. Doing an emoji of a Leslie stare for the YouTube channel. As the only boy in 40 cousins, a trick I can tell you to braiding hair is, first of all, get one of those wigs that you can practice sort of doing hair stuff with, and then learn on that. Because in my experience, I have both had my hair braided when it's slightly longer, when it was longer and people tried, and have braided hair. I'm the only boy in 40 cousins. If you're entertaining little cousins, you do what you need to do, okay? There are pictures of me at a tea party. There are pictures of me doing all sorts of things somewhere in the family that will never come out as long as my cousins wish to continue receiving Christmas presents. If any of them watching this, they know what that means. Okay, Seneca, what's the cool trick you knew refits? I quite like the idea of war with Germany. Don't take this wrong way at this point, but that sounds bad until you realise Germany has one nation and I already have them blockaded in, and I have a base at Heligoland, which has 3 destroyers sitting in it. Three 36-knot, Hind class, Civil class, and an Ardent class. Make a cheap refit of that new ship class. Refit your old ship to new class. Yeah. Make a new class of the same name in the same ship type. Make a cheap refit of the new ship class, and refit your ships to new class. Oh, that does sound quite cool. Not exactly how I would probably play it, but I can understand. If I was playing it more as a game and less as a something which I use to encourage people to study history, yes. It's fun. I can see why Canada's allied with me. That reminds me. Hamilton is my own port, and I have I have that sitting there. So that's 4 battleships armed with 16.5-inch guns. A battle cruiser with 9.2-inch guns. 2 light cruisers and 5 destroyers. Yeah, that should be enough to do that. I control the Caribbean, and my first target in any war is Panama. My first target in any war is to take Panama. That is what I want, because once I control that, then good luck, America. Although, yeah, they don't have much up here in terms of fleet forces, so my fleet forces over here might actually be enough to take them on. That could be quite freaky for them. If my navy from New Zealand is strong enough to do the invasions of North America, then they have to... Oh, of course, I have 5 destroyers sitting up there. Hull can do a bit of mine laying. And they have 1 submarine sitting over there. And nothing sitting there. And 1 light cruiser sitting down there. That's 1 light cruiser and 1 submarine. Against 5 destroyers, that could be an interesting formation. Seems like I'm going to have to build some more destroyers at some point. Armor forging. Explosives. What's the explosives we're working on? What would help me most at the moment is... That's already 80%. I don't need to do much for that. I don't need to do anything in that. Mines I'm going to leave there. Submarine hulls is super coastal submarine researching. I can leave that. That's going to be 1 month if I don't do anything. I can almost leave things. What's the cruiser design coming up? What's coming up in cruiser design? 22,000 ton heavy cruiser. We'll see. We will see. I want the Americans to declare war without me blockading them, and I prefer to take Germany first. Ooh, cannon hitting ship. How loud is that for everyone? Was it loud or really quiet? Okay. That's a lot of colonial holdings. I do control 215 provinces. I could have sworn I still got Prime. Gilbert, I have heard of it. 4C, instead of being sent out into loss, forms the core IBDA com. How do you think they handle themselves in the Java Sea? Do you think the Java Sea handles it does historically? Because if you've got Prince of Wales and you've got Repulse, plus those crews, etc., and Tom Phillips at the heart of the force, how do they respond? There's also the fact of, if you consider the Java Sea, that's also the point at which ships are being rushed to form the Eastern Fleet after the loss of 4C. So some of those ships, specifically, let's say one of the carriers, might well rush to try, or both the carriers might well rush to join Tom Phillips. So the reality is, they might end up fighting Java, but you might end up being a far larger force, because basically, if ABDA.com is centered on those, then it might make more sense for the Americans to send more forces to join it. It certainly makes sense for the British to send more forces also because it's far stronger, and the Japanese have to send a far stronger fleet down to fight it, because you turn up to cruisers to that battle, well, Prince of Wales is going to run through Japanese cruisers in a gunnery duel. She is going to. Hello! So yeah, the IJN have to commit something bigger. Congos, they might. I don't think they send the Congos, but anything bigger is going to take time for them to commit. And they might actually want to commit carriers. And then if the British have carriers there, you could end up with a carrier fight. Now it's loud. Very loud. Okay. Let's have a conversation with the volume. Okay. Thank you for subscribing. So... 215, well, if we go to the politics, you'll see the rest of the world has... America holds a total of 15 provinces. Japan holds 7, and Germany holds 1. So, between them, they hold 23, and I hold 215. Does this sideline MacArthur? It causes MacArthur a lot of trouble in trying to assume command, because there's now a 4-star British admiral in charge of forces fighting down there. And ABDA command becomes a far more British command. How does America have as many battleships as me? They spent a lot of money on defense, but also they haven't really used a lot of it for anything. Their battleships tend to be quite short range. It seems they seem to concentrate mostly over here. They do a lot of concentration on cruiser construction. That's their big thing, cruiser construction. Well, Killer Ben, the thing is, you are prefacing that with a scenario, with an issue. You are thinking about Java Sea surface fight. You're presuming the British base their analysis of torpedo range based off the things they can see. The British, the moment they get in, the British start zigzagging the moment war begins, and they don't stop. Yes, they still lose some ships to torpedo attacks, but they're always zigzagging. Even Ark Royal, when she was attacked, was zigzagging. It's a constant thing. So their presumption might not. They might not know. They might not have necessarily believe, although they had some intelligence to suggest that the Japanese had torpedoes as long range as they did have. But the thing is, they'll presume there are Japanese submarines in the water. That's their standard operating procedure. That they are. They always assume there are enemy submarines. So they're already going to be doing a zigzag. And the thing is, Phillips has an actual staff. He has an actual flagship with the space to command it. Unlike the poor Dutch admiral who ends up in charge, trying to run things, who was really not equipped and really not prepared for running a multinational task force. But he was the most senior officer present, so he guts the role. Phillips is prepared for it. And the thing is, again, he has Repulse as well as Prince of Wales. So those cruisers are worthy targets for the 14-inch and 15-inch guns. And they do outrange the torpedoes. Essentially, Iron's default is a zigzag. They have to... Don't joke. Do not joke. I have a friend of mine who's a copper in Plymouth, and he jokes that the Navy, he always has to be he always has to check, because it doesn't it's not necessarily drinking, which means that someone is going from side to side on the road. They just could be Royal Navy and unused to walking in moving in straight lines. Okay, I want to combine you into one group. Please do so. Because I want to have a powerful 6 frigate, 6 big guns. The Mark 19-inch gun, Mark II 19-inch guns. Could be fun. We'll go it. So the point becomes, a Battle of Java Sea is going to be very different. For starters, for the Japanese to bring up forces is going to delay when it happens, which is going to give things. Phillips is going to reorganize things in a different way to begin with. And who knows, as I said, there might be a British carrier there, might be 2 British carriers, there might even be Saratoga there. The Americans might combine, everyone might combine in together, because, again, Phillips is senior enough, and the Americans might bring Saratoga up by the time at which the eventual Java Sea happens. So you end up with maybe an Allied force built around 2 to 3 fast capital ships, 2 to 3 carriers, and all those cruisers and destroyers combined together fighting against whatever the Japanese send. And that would be a sort of Java version of Coral Sea. And the Japanese would have to send equivalent forces. So you basically, with Force Z, with that force surviving and forming the basic command, you change so much, you change the entire rhythm of the Pacific War after that. Because there is now going to be another major battle, which is going to have to be a carrier battle, probably, in that area. And the thing is, again, this is going to involve the British in a carrier battle. The British doctrine for a carrier battle is to hit them at night. They tried that in Force C. Unfortunately, they're going in the wrong way. If they hadn't, they'd have hit them. And if they'd hit them, who knows what would happen with the next day. It could have been interesting. It depends how the battle goes. How the night attack strike goes. But again, if we sort of work through it and think it through, if it happens in this scenario and the Americans, Saratoga's there, with her aircraft to do a dawn strike as well on whatever remains, then there could be severe problems for the Japanese. First session of laser tomorrow. Oh, fun times. Sorry, I've just got a whole load of videos come in as recommendations on YouTube. And that man should really make his mind up. How am I losing troops in Portuguese Congo? What am I doing in Portuguese Congo? Can someone please explain why I'm in Portuguese Congo? There's Middle Congo, there's Gabon, Angola. There's Portuguese Congo. Portugal. No, that was Portugal is losing troops in Portuguese Congo, I presume. Not me. Oh, that's good. I was worried about that for a second. Actually... Oh, I think there is one here you would like. Oh, Runon. I'll save this one. I'll send it to you later. Oh, and please note, everyone, Runon really likes it when you send them on Discord videos of electrical things gone wrong. The more problematic the wiring is, the more troublesome the switchboard is, the more likely it is to set fire and burn down a house. Runon likes that form of electrics. They really do enjoy it. It really helps them. Just crowdsourcing this a little. Because I feel Leslie hasn't yet got fully involved in it as he could do. I feel Leslie has depths that could be plumbed on this issue. And straight in. I think they're going to lose that. Especially to keep losing troops at that rate. We can always hope the Duke of Petchington will meme Runon. I'm sure Runon will enjoy being memed. I can imagine that was spicy, Leslie. The screw was attached to a metal carpet holder. Okay, so more of our armed transport guns that can reach up to 4 inches of camera, or even dual torpedo launchers. Leslie, at this point, Runon might potentially be collapsed on a carpet somewhere, going no more. But yeah, my armed merchant cruisers now really shouldn't take them on. They have torpedoes and 4-inch guns. If the Royal Navy had done that with their armed merchant cruisers in World War II, there are a few German light battleships which would have been sunk. Or rather, ceased to function with a floatiness. As one of my friends put it recently. You have... Oh, Leslie, you have some of your old dad's side to go through that. Hold on. Just a note. Leslie's dad worked in power stations. You might want to hide from any photos that you get sent. Oh, I like this. Uh, how are we doing today? How is the war going? Right, Burns catching images from Weibo, burn, graphs up in forums. You can try. You can try. And people who claim that Makar from Raw are the greatest strategist known to mankind. Nah, doesn't really bother me. Look, my view on a lot of that stuff, and this is gonna sound terrible, but it is my view. If you really believe that, fine, that's up to you. But there are worse things you could believe. Admittedly, though, I did find out something interesting recently. I found out that Rory Stewart, who is most famous for failing to win the leadership campaign versus Boris Johnson, and served as a army officer for a while, but really is a professor of grand strategy at Yale University. And I was sitting there going, at no point was he, I think, more senior than a captain in the army. I'm not sure where grand strategy has come into his career to the level that he should be a professor of grand strategy. That, you know, I have, you know, I think everyone's potentially capable, but let's be honest, he was Minister for State Prisons, Parole and Probation. He is I suppose he was a bit of a diplomat for a while. He was actually a second lieutenant on probation. That was his most senior rank. Second lieutenant on probation. And he has served as second secretary in Jakarta. And he did some work in Iraq. He did some travel writing. Again, look, I see him as a commentator. I don't agree with some of the stuff he says, and honestly, a lot of the stuff he repeats on aircraft carriers, etc., I find absolutely absurd. And some stuff when he's talking about small ships being deployed in the Far East, I find absolutely absurd. But I have no qualms with, no personal gripes with the gent. But I seriously, I don't know how he's got to be professor of grand strategy at Yale. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, when I saw that, it made me start looking through and thinking about all the people who are academics, who and people who do teaching at university, And I realised that, frankly, it's not just on YouTube that I have to deal with people being taught weird stuff. It's everywhere. And so all I can do, in a rather philosophical approach, is just keep doing as good a quality production as myself and hope that counteracts some small part of it. So, like, compared to Boris, he's... Look. Steve. Look. When you're setting the bar that low, okay? That low. Don't go there. There has been no one, not a single politician, in the last... I would say 30 plus years in UK politics who even conforms to a strategist, let alone a grand strategist, when it comes to international relations. There are some in Thatcher's generation, including Thatcher herself was certainly a strategist. But for a grand strategist in the political sphere of operations, in any government and anywhere in the world, you are going back a long, long time. But yeah, it's just... You see, what people forget is that quite a lot of your career, for most people, is spent at the tactical level and the local level. And operating on the strategic and grand strategic level is a whole different ballgame. But the trouble is, what we've done, especially with quite a lot of modern business culture being adopted to organizations, is people don't seem to realize that businesses actually don't... how do I put this politely? Business has a fundamentally mucked up opinion of strategy from the point of view of countries. In companies, you have a scenario where you can possibly win. You can make a profit. You can keep the company going. You can, there are all sorts of scenarios where you can win. The fundamental thing about grand strategy is sometimes you're actually not playing to win because the best option is to play to continue to play. Because playing to win means others lose. And that means you will lose long term because they will do things, they will come back. And one of the great examples of that is the way the British managed the relationship with the Americans. Because the British Empire at its height knows it can do what it needs to do if it needs to fight the Americans at its height. But it doesn't want to, because it knows it's fundamentally changing empire and the world's changing. And if you do something now because you can, there will come a time where America can do something will do something to you because it can. So you don't do it. Lord North was not that great a strategist either. But no, it's just... I have to say I'm being a bit today about academic posts because... Yeah, I applied for a lecturing position, which would have been quite nice. It would have been a part-time post, but it was permanent. And it wasn't going to be far from where we were, and it would be commutable as far as I was concerned. And once again got through to interviews, had interviews. They hired someone else, and that was fine. I was fine with that. I got a nice letter, but it's 3 months down the road, and I've had a message saying, would I continue doing some? Would I consider doing some contract lecturing for them? And it's basically to teach the lectures which I would have been hired permanently to do, because the person they've hired turns out can't actually teach the course they've hired them to teach. I'm sure they have very good reasons to hire them, but apparently they can't do it. And you sit there and go, why? At least UK is still enemy number one. We will always be enemy number one for Russia. Not a moment, no. So yeah, that's basically Narkimi. That came through, and it came through this morning. Actually, it was the head of the department that sent me the email. Was saying, I know this is a weekend, but we've been having these sort of lovely. We've been having some problems with this course. We were wondering if you could teach a couple of the lectures, and it's literally every single lecture of 2 modules. And I'm going, but you didn't want me. You wanted the other person. But we'll see. I am, by nature, a bit of a mercenary, so if they offer to pay me enough money, I've gone back and basically said the line of, well, not for that rate. You'd have to up your pay. As this is going to be a contract position, and I did originally apply for a permanent role, but you've taken someone else for that role. I feel, that I have to reflect that in my earning potentials and my ability to support myself with other things, so, yeah. I quoted them my £90 an hour rate for contract lecturing. Theoretically, contract lecturers vary from £15 to £60, but I have been naughty before and actually got paid it. So we'll see what they come up with. Yeah, we set up an entire Fool's Capital. For anyone who doesn't know the story, basically in the 1920s, a Scottish nationalist communist, they believed in an independent communist Scotland, so hence Scottish nationalist communist, went to the Soviet Union and wrote their geography textbooks and stayed out there for many, many years. And because they were such a fiercely proud Scot, they decided the capital of Britain was actually Edinburgh. And that is why, even though the Soviet Union probably did actually know London was the capital, when they cited their original and quite a lot of their still current ICBMs and their concrete silos because they were orientated on their targets, it was actually worked out that twice as many were pointed at Edinburgh than at London. Because they just said, angle it on the capital of Britain. And they didn't realise they had several generations, because this textbook was still being used well into the 1970s, that had been taught the capital of Britain was Edinburgh. I just find it annoying because I have a group of friends who are similar to me, academics like me, they're contract lecturers, and we all have basically the same story, and we go, so what's bad about us? Because we're still researching, we're still publishing, we're doing all these things, yet we're not being hired, and yet we can almost put a timer that within a term of some of the other person being hired, we're going to get a message going, can you come back and teach? Can you come do the teaching for us? And we get fed up. Oh, honestly, it's almost embarrassing. Because the first thing I regularly do when I sort of go and I go, okay, so you hired this person to teach, da 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 da. Do you have their teaching notes? Oh no, they haven't produced any. But you've put them through the full fellowship program. Yes, they didn't produce teaching documents. Well, they have, but they're not useful for you. So I have to write my own. Have you got an agreed module prospectus, etc. for it? Yes. Good. Okay. Give me that. I'll go off and write my own notes. And write my own teaching. And it's just fun. It is just fun. And, yeah. Right on. Add about $15 onto that rate. After all, you want them to be you want to have a take-home pay of roughly $40 an hour. So you need to be charging at least $60 to try and get anywhere close to that. Also, you get more than taxes. I added a happy face picture to my profile. That could be scary. I'm presuming that's your Discord profile. Let's check Discord, shall we? I'm gonna see. Okay. Leslie. Twitch profile. Okay. Let's go to your Twitch profile. Oh, good lord, he has. Yeah, that's, yeah. I'm regularly upsetting the Imperial Court, but I was distracted by something which flashed up, because you know how Microsoft Office does that whole thing. Hey Paul, thank you for being subscribed to the channel for 8 months. You know how Microsoft Windows does that whole thing of flashing up news to you? And you just flashed up and I went, oh, that can't be true. Please let me read that and that not be the case. And, oh, it was worse when I read it. I say we do that for now, because I'm hoping for a war with Germany first. $18,000 crew first. See, where's the fleet I've got for fighting Germany? Refitting ships is down to 8 ships being refit, which should mean I'm getting closer and closer to my actual tonnage where I can do things that without any penalties. Poor Germany was getting smushed. There's a reason they're always getting smushed. If they're not smushed early on, they're blooming dangerous. Smush them hard, smush them early, and you can keep on trucking. actually had an idea I might end up turning into a short this week. Or rather, when I say I had an idea, I was in a conversation. And some was complaining again about Sea Harrier versus F-35 and saying the Sea Harrier better to have today than the F-35 and it could do more and all these things. And I went, you do realise in 1982 the Falklands War was closer to World War II than we are to the Falklands War today. So you saying you prefer to have a Sea Harrier to an F-35 for a modern battle is like in 1982 someone turning around and saying they'd like a Sea Fire rather than the Sea Harrier for the battle. Only they have more of a reason for it because they're actually closer to the Sea Fire than we are to the Sea Harrier. The Sea Harriers went years ago, long before the decisions were made, and they were because of some various issues, which were mostly, they decided that rather than upgrading and enhancing them, they'd jump onto the GR Harriers, which the Americans were invested in upgrading and enhancing, and use that as a cheaper bandwagon to keep for the Harrier fleet because it would save money short term. So we then had GR Harriers for years, and then we got rid of them in a very short-sighted 2010 decision. But even then, let's be honest, you're talking about using aircraft which are completely different. The Sea Harrier wasn't stealthed. It didn't have the networking and systems that which the F-35 has as standard. Certainly doesn't have the bomb load or range and the speed. So yeah, F-35, believe it or not, is better than the Sea Harrier. Still working out how I'd turn it into a short though. I would love to, but I need to get that tonnage down a bit first. We are supposed to be moving within we are supposed to be able to confirm and exchange within 2 weeks, hopefully in about 2 weeks. Over the next 2 weeks, it's going to be done. It's supposed to be done very quickly. I have to call a lot of people on Tuesday and make sure it's happening because, of course, Monday is Bank Holiday Monday, so they won't be doing anything then. And yeah, it's all going to be fun. Jonathan Moon, no, you do not want a Wright Flyer instead of F-35 for ease of maintenance. Do not. The Wright Flyer was in no way, shape, or form easy to maintain. Do not. That's a custom-built engine, custom hand-built engine, the entire framing. No, that is not an easy job to maintain. Swordfish is easy to maintain. Wright Flyer, no. Rudon? If I didn't know you were winding me up, I would tell you to go and have a serious conversation with a doctor before you started touching electrical implements. The Wright Flyer maneuverable barely went in a broadly straight line. Turning a corner might have been blooming difficult for it. Oh, was that why my mum last night was saying good night, Dragoons? She was watching Doki Bird. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. That makes sense. Morning, Cody. Spike, can you turn the right fly into a short-range drone? You know those little baby drones which fit in the palm of your hand? They actually have better flight dynamics and longer range than the right flyer has. The right flyer is a proof of concept. The right flyer is something. Okay, here's the important question for you all, as I know you're all Warhammer 40k fanatics. All Super Mine Layer submarine. Okay, you know I'm gonna be going for that. I can get a Super Mine Layer submarine. This is gonna be procured. There are gonna be so many of those. Maybe another 100 submarines to come shortly. Here's the important question, as you're all Warhammer 40k move. Should it be Gilliman or L. Johnson who fights High Fleet Leviathan, or do you think another of the how do I put this specifically? The Loyalist Primarchs return to fight High Fleet Leviathan? Because I have a personal belief over who it should be who fights High Fleet Leviathan. But the question has to be, do you think it should be Gilliman, L. Johnson, or do you think another Primarch should return? And if you think it's another one, which one? The Lion coming for you. Seneca has suggested Jagatai. Laughing God shall help. Jagatai Khan. That's always a good one to have. Khan is going to come out the webway with a mixed force behind him to smash a Chaos Incursion fleet to free the Elder God, methinks. Honestly, I wouldn't put the Khan past that. Well, the White Scars do have a lot of staying power. Let's be honest. When they are, let's consider what they do as a legion, and they are a very good force. They are a very mobile force. I would say if you're going to halt, you're right, you need a defensively mobilized force, but if you are going to prosecute a war against them and push them back, then you need something else. Because the High Fleets, Leviathan, etc., they're not the kind of force that you can just leave there. Sanguinius should have prayed a Primarch. I would just say, Seneca, that that could get you in the how do I put this politely? The optical sights of my mother, because she is a Dante fangirl. Dante forever. Honestly, if they hadn't produced a new model of Dante soon, I was worried she was going to go visit them in person to demand the model. So yeah, that's that will be yeah, yes, if anything replaced Dante, it's like she had a real thing. If Lion had revoked the position Dante had been given by Gilliman, that would have led to some, at the very least, very angry letters. Yeah. My mom's personal view is it should be Dante who stops them. Oh, I love my mum, but she does specialize in intimidating people. Even had her very, she's a very nice lady. Just don't cross her. Oh. A lot of people have gone, who said, "Oh no, I wouldn't be intimidated by her." I said, "Go on, have the argument with her. Wait, I'll stand here. You're not here to help her. No, I'm here to stop her causing permanent damage to you, psychological mainly. I'm not here to help." I always laugh when they think I'm there to do the actual talking for her. No, I'm here to prevent her causing permanent psychological damage to you. That's my role. They do need Vulcan back. They need Vulcan back to basically manage a certain member of the Mechanicum and keep him focused. Dawn coming back would be an interesting one, because Dawn is the master of defense and offense, and let's be honest, the only force which could probably pull together enough troops to mobilize and really push back a fleet like Leviathan would be the Templars, which are of course of his line. But there again, I'm fairly certain at a certain point the Templars and other organizations could be going to war with the... Well, certainly with factions. How do I describe it? With the oh, what are they called? Now my brain's gone out. My brain's gone blank. The oh, frigate. Inquisitors. Yeah, I think that I think you could they could have that. What would be really interesting is Gilliman might earn forever. If Gilliman learnt that the Inquisitors had done what they did to the sons of Russ. If Gilliman learns that's what that the Inquisitors did that could cause a whole new trouble for the Inquisitors. Because I think, honestly, my reading of some of the books is that Gilliman is weighing up whether he wants to fight the Ecclesiarchy first or the Inquisitors, because I think he's building up for one of them. And unlike them, he plays the really long game. They think in terms of lifetimes of humans. He thinks in terms of lifetime of centuries. No, I'm not saying Dawn, if that Dawn could bring them back. I think Dawn could get the Templars on side. Okay, keep the Templars on side. Hey, Kofi. Sigismund and Dawn. True. But in many ways, they are also Dawn's vengeance made true. Wait, let's go check the research. Honestly, but that's what they're supposed to do. That was how it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be free-moving forces like the Khan, the Lion, the Wolf, basically doing what they needed to do. And Gilliman and Dawn providing the forces which would block them, so that the Nids would get, forces like Nids would get crushed by them. Mark 5 12-inch guns. Okay. Mines. Now we want the hull degaussing number 4. Yeah, we'll take that. Although I have to say, I've always felt the whole... The thing for me was you could tell some of the stuff in Warhammer was not written. They didn't go and really talk to anyone who had any experience of military history or structuring, because going with 1,000, it sounds like a nice cool figure, but it doesn't work out in practicality. Honestly, if you're looking at the structure you should have probably adopted, you're probably looking at Legion strengths of closer to 2,000. They don't need to be full brigade size, but they do need to have a full heavy battle force, or they do need to have a full heavy battle force. They also need to have a company who are dedicated to homeworld security and training to regenerate from should they be lost in battle. And there's all sorts of scenarios that you need to account for, and 1,000 doesn't really allow you to account for that. That's 1,000 battle line troops. Well, that's the trouble, is that the support troops are exempt. I'm never quite sure whether support troops are exempt from those numbers. Because it seems to me some legions are very hard on their maximums 1,000, and even support troops, that's your 1,000 Space Marines. And honestly, You need more. You need some. And one of the things I think they did miss out again is they needed almost groups of Space Marines as, you know, each Legion needed to have some planets which they took on as wardens to an extent, where they didn't run things but they kept an eye on things and would always have a party down. There's all sorts of fun stuff which I would have done myself if I'd been structuring it. A 1,000 just regiment, more likely a battalion. It's more, yeah. It's basically a reinforced. It's a battle group. It's a reinforced battalion. Tenth Company is supposed to be a training unit, and scouts not accounting numbers. Yeah, but again, scouts aren't fully fledged Space Marines, are they? They're usually in transition. Plus, I have no idea what you're talking about. I really should go read the books. Well, pretty much, Gilliman is... They make a lot of fun of him, but actually, you need someone like that. You need someone writing out manuals and operations and doing the bureaucracy of war and all those things, because it needs to be run. But, yeah. I would say they need a scenario where also, well, I think I'm fairly sure any of their more advanced veterans, for example, those who are in dreadnoughts, etc., are not counted in their numbers, or at least I'd hope they're not. I don't think the dreadnoughts are counted. Yeah, Gilliman is the ultimate administrator, and you need him. He's also a good strategist, a really good strategist. He is basically, I always think he's the part of the Emperor who is, the Emperor took a portion of himself to every single section, every one of the Primarchs, and I think Gilliman gets his capacity to organize and strategize. And the other interesting thing, of course, is that the interesting thing I always find is Russ is also pretty darn good at that. If you look at how he acts, especially in some of the Brothers books, where he's, especially when he's trying to teach Angron lessons, he really does have the strategy down pat. He just doesn't choose to use it. He doesn't want to get involved in all that civilization, or rather boring bureaucracy. It's just not what he wants to do. The Garrison Legion. The Blue Boys are the Garrison Legions. To an extent, they are. The Ultramarines, I wouldn't say so much of the Garrison Legion. They are the... They're almost the Ubiquity Legion. They are the Legion which are supposed to be able... They are not going to be particularly good at any job, but they're not going to be particularly bad at any job. They're what you can send on any mission, and they'll have a good chance of doing it. And they'll neither be as solid as some or as fast as others. They're not necessarily as strong at defense as Dawn's formations are, but they're not as bad as others. They are the ones that sort of sit in the... We are the 70% in almost every single role, and that's largely thanks to Gilliman, who sets them up to always be thinking and always be plotting and planning it. Why did they not join into a fleet? That one's a nice fleet. I want Germany to get hold of me. Yeah, but it's... I would say they're not the only legion like that. Sanguinius' legion is also to an extent. I would say the Red Angels are... The Angels are to an extent like that as well. Their purpose, though... They're also sort of the Garrison Legion. But they have the artistic, and it's kind of like Vulcan's Legion as well. There are, I would argue, 3 or 4 legions, which even the skills they do have, they're still very good in all the others. You only have to look at how the Red Angels, how they do in defense of their own home planet against the forces of the Hive. They are solid defenders. Blood Angels. I keep on Red Angels for some reason. But you see, sort of, I would say the Blood Angels are assault but solid. And it's one of the interesting things. I looked through a few years ago, and honestly, it was interesting to me because when I started realizing it and going through it, I was sort of going, what I'm looking for is the solid all-rounder legions, which are the most all-rounder legions. And you look at their histories and the books about them, and you very quickly realize that the all-rounder legions are what largely sided with the Emperor. You look at those legions, you look at their capabilities to fight, and look at what they do, their operational starting point, and largely those all-rounders are the ones which stayed with the Emperor. The ones which were far more specialised in their approach were the ones which went over. And it's almost a case of jack of all trades, stay loyal. Masters specialise and need something to service their specialisation. Politics. Chapter 9 needs to refit. I'd say Korax. Well, Dawn might strike you as specialized, and the Force might strike you as specialized, but then there's how he deals with the Alpha Legion. And that is cold. Honestly, that was something Alfarius never saw coming. And I'm fairly sure it was Alfarius who's killed by Dawn. Omegon carries on with his jobs. But yeah. Oh, Johnson is definitely a generalist as well. Generalist, honestly, L. Johnson is more of an offensive generalist. He's kind of like Sanguinius. I would say you've got Dawn is a defensive generalist. He will do other things, but he is a defensive. What are the states? Yeah, in the Siege of Terra novels, Dawn absolutely goes. He lets Alfarius stab him so he can kill him. Pretty much. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but it's a scene to read and read again. It's a really powerful scene. And it shows how formidable Dawn is. And there's a reason that he was back where he was. It's like you have to focus on to remember. I remember when Games Workshop first released for the game, and yes, they were armored warbles. I'm not unconvinced that 20 Legion is not some type of low-level distributed intelligence. There is a possibility. They are certainly intriguing enough to try it. Oh yes, I did pick up the Custodian Battlefields. Well, I'm having fun with that one because, honestly, it's gonna sound strange, but the changes in the Custodies, I'm not bothered by. I said I am just not bothered because I think you've done something with the Astartes. And that could be interesting, but I've explained what my little cousin's theory over the Astartes is. Her entire theory is that there was one of the Primarchs was a sister, and maybe Warp changed that. I don't know what happened, and their Astartes were female, and that's why, you know, as I think I told you, sort of her scenario is that that's why it made all the brothers go so mad, because she basically lost her life trying to save the other one or something like that, and that's what they were so furious and they couldn't do anything about it. Because again, her theory is quite simple. She said, just think about it. If you're the only sister in 20 brothers, in 20 siblings, you're going to be pretty darn special, and they're all going to be fiercely protective, and nothing's going to send them madder. Because to need the level of intervention that was required from the Emperor, to wipe their minds, to put a block on them, that has to be a pretty traumatic thing. And okay, there's good arguments against it in all the sort of history, but again, we know with Warhammer 40k things can be reimagined. We know things can change. We know what you're told might not be truth. It's just what's recollected by someone at that point. And yeah. So that's my little cousin's theory. And that's why they were, in her views, that's why they originally were female Space Marines. When they produced the packs. You see, and I would say again, as I said with the Custodes, they are such a complicated organization. They're such a Custodes are such an individual project. They always could be. You know, you're looking for someone who is basically a perfect mind. You're going to adapt everything else about them and change and improve it all. But you have to have a perfect mind and a perfect, want a better phrase, spirit to wrap that around. That's going to be so rare. You're not going to be able to be picky. Politics. Finances. Yay. I'm now on the building. Yes. So I have almost 200,000 of construction. Let's go to fleet. See how long I have till my battleships are built. Do I want to see how 1,000 submarines? Yeah. If we go to politics. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Bernard Hill was a cool guy. My submarine strength. I have 1,000 submarines, 435 destroyers, 123 light cruisers, 50 cruisers, 23 battle cruisers, and 75 battleships. The next nearest to me is the Americans with 788 ships. They have 53 battleships, 10 battle cruisers, 224 heavy cruisers, 264 light cruisers, 226 destroyers, and 11 submarines. Have I dispersed them? Yes and no. You see, what I tend to do is build in a bunch of hundreds and a batch of hundreds and see where they end up. But also, there is the fact that they've basically made the waters in the areas of my home territory impassable for enemy fleets. So Caribbean and this area are not good for anyone to attack. And I'm building another 10 battleships, so I should soon be a slightly more number. Grow just a bit. More weird stuff going on today. Seriously, the internet is a weird place and the world is even weirder. And I keep sinking German transport ships in the blooming North Sea, and they haven't noticed it. You have a literal minefield of submarines. Well, that is my plan. The Kriegsmarine. Look, let's put it this way: if the British had had 1,000 submarines in 1943, the Kriegsmarine would have been crying. There would be a case of we're going to see the area the British have to secure is far smaller than the area they have to secure. Hello, you're literally leaving port. There's a dozen submarines waiting for you. Jacob, sorry I'm late. I was conquering Austria-Hungary. It happens. It happens. Ooh. Lots of interesting things happening in there in research now, so should pop this into heavy work. And what else do I want to do? Oh yeah, I want to see how long today. No, you need 100 men to knock me over. I can do it with one old guy and two boys strategy. A timeless classic if there was one. Pretty much once you're in a university, you are there until you decide you want to leave, or it's very difficult to get rid of a lecturer once they're hired on a permanent contract. Very, very difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult. Paul. Very, very difficult. And honestly, I have a record one. I just refuse to go back for any more interviews. Actually, I do have that lot of the story I was tell of. One university I did repeated contract lecturing for. I kept going for an interview for the role. I kept hiring someone else. Then they called me in to do the lectures, and that person would then leave after a year. And so they then go through the process again. I'd interview, I wouldn't get the job, and the same thing happened. It happened so often. By the end of it, I didn't bother applying for the post, and I was asked, why haven't you applied this year? I went, there's no point. I never get it, role. I've gone through the interview process 4 times. I never get the role. You just called me back. You just called me up in about a month's time after the interviews and asked me to do all the teaching. So I expect a phone call from you in about 2.5 months' time. Yes, you do need the ability to fight the minor allies who are enemies. I would like to take out Belgium, I would like to take out the Netherlands, and then I would like to take out Denmark. and also all these areas, because I want to take out Sweden and Gothenburg and take it all. Take it all. Take it all. Take all of Europe and Portugal and everywhere else. Just take them all. Nah, I won't do anything on the ship now. Trying to remind myself of the stats of this ship. Apart from having very dapper 6-inch guns. There's 12 6-inch guns on each side. Iron Brew Orange is good. Iron Brew Orange will be good. White offset 14.5%. So that's quite down aft, really. Nine 16.5-inch guns. Top speed 36 knots. Range 19,800 kilometers. Yeah, double hold, modern armor. Auto loading, gen free radar, all these things. Yeah, though, 20-inch main belt, 14-inch main deck, 18-inch armor turret side, 18-inch barbette, 9-inch top. Yeah, they're gonna take that ship will take a pounding. Oh. It never ceases to surprise me how well people like Reginald Turret do on shorts. Because I like them, but I don't expect them to necessarily resonate with people as much as they do. It's going to be interesting when I do the Year of Leadership next year. So, what's everyone's plans for lunch today? Because it's Sunday, so it should be good lunch day. In my day today, it's going to be Toby Carvery because the family's all packing stuff, and I am working today, and I don't feel like I've got. If I can help with packing, that helps, and doing moving heavy stuff, that's better. So how about we do a Toby Carvery for lunch for everyone? And that was greeted with, oh, we should probably cook something properly. I went, it's Toby Carvery. It can be here. It's a proper roast. Tuna on toast. Runon, look up a Toby Carvery now. Okay, just look it up. Depends on what the boy wants. Lunch was a sandwich cheese. Jacob, you are the healthiest horse. I'm doing a house refitting. I know, but look up at Toby Carvery. How not to be a leader using David Porter and BT's examples. Oh, no, that's going to be... Lessons in leadership throughout the year. That's going to be an interesting one. Oh, yeah, well, the trouble is... I don't have my lunch till after I finish the Twitch, and then before I do the YouTube live. So, I always have it after 4. And... usually sort of that works out because I've done the I've done the sort of the exercise stuff I want to do in the morning. I've done this. I'm fairly happy to go have food at that point, and that suits everyone else because everyone else has a lazy Sunday. It's only annoying people like me and my mum who don't sleep in mornings. On a Sunday, are antisocial in that way. Let's go for finances. Do I think I'll be in a massive war shortly? Probably. Fleet maintenance, fleet building, ammunition, fuel, total expenses. That. I need my budget to go up. I think that'd be a nice wall. No, I had nice lunches at Gammon Eggs. Leslie, normal Sunday lunches, 4-quart sandwich, driving up to Mum's. Yeah, we all know those. Far, far too well. Cody 88. I'm probably going to get a peanut butter and jelly because I've got to spread 2 stuck in... I got to spread 2 stuck in a 24-hour laundromat washing clothes because our washing machine died of death. You see, this is one of the things I'm planning on setting up. This is going to sound strange, but when we move, because basically my annex is going to have its full independent facility, so it's going to have things like its own washing machine, its own washing machine and dryer, etc., and all those things. And my theory is that gives us 2 on different circuits. It gives us 2 of all these things, 2 cookers, 2 of those on different circuits in the house, on different systems. So it basically gives us security. If mine goes on, I can use the main house one. If the main house system goes wrong, then they can use mine. I just think it's a sensible option if you can do it these days, because we're so dependent on this stuff. We really don't think about it. But yeah, I'm also heavily going for the whole Solar panels and battery approach, because it's Cornwall, so it's got enough sunlight to justify those things. And if I could, I'd also stick up a nice little, my own sort of wind turbine. I realise that's slightly more difficult to get for a personal garden. But I think having my own wind turbine would be fun. Right on. Off the note, the phrase "one is none" is often repeated by some comics. I'm simply these matter 4 for guaranteed capability. Yep. It's the issue you have with a lot of things. Is there a stream handy? A water wheel would be good. No, there's no stream handy. We were looking at a place with a stream, but I was told we couldn't have it because the dogs would be in and out of it every single day, and my mum wasn't prepared to deal with two dogs who were constantly, how do I put this? Constantly soaked. And I was going, I believed it was perfectly sensible that they were, it was perfectly a viable system to have it, and that it would have made things a lot easier in so many ways. Water-wise, had full rights to turn the weir into a hydroelectric system, all these things, but no, she didn't want it. She had visions of a corgi and poodle having swimming competitions. Just think of the fun I could have had with my own hydroelectric weir. Again, I've been told the garden is not big enough for me to put in a real steam engine. But there is a steam railway not too far away, so I can go and muck around with them. Well, we can do that anyway with the solar panels and the battery system. As said, with the plan would have been with that property, because that property would have had a far bigger garden. Would certainly been to get a wind turbine, because we had far more space between us and neighbours. Solar panels and the weir set up. But honestly, that property would have been the absolute maximum of our budget. I gotta look into rerunning the power out to my garage. That's also helpful. It would be books. Do you reckon Alex live next door? It would be books borrowed and returned by steam locomotive. That would be good. I'd like that. The trouble is, I'm not sure if the properties around me in Cornwall will be big enough for what he wants to do. Because we got one of the bigger ones on the road, realistically, in terms of land space. Had its own hydro plant for a lock and a 100-meter drop. Yeah, that does sound good, having its own hydro plant. Yeah, it does put you at flood risk, but you know, there is ways to managing that. There are ways to managing that. Pore space definitely is a criteria. Why is Facebook suggesting random people to me as a friend again? I'm not quite sure. At some point, I have really got to get Facebook out of the idea that I am someone who likes to be friends with lots of people on Facebook. I will never understand Facebook. House on a hill above lock, 50 meters. Very small risk of flood. Yeah. Let's put it this way. A lot of modern systems are a computer says no. And the computer doesn't always look at things in 3D. In fact, it rarely does. I was in a live stream on Tuesday where the stream was doing some world building for a D&D game. One of the core concept setting was that the more anthropomorphic races were born at semi-random, e.g. a human couple could have a tabaxi child. That set my mind racing with social implications. It would certainly break down some of the social implications, but I could see it also leading to some major issues with some people. Yeah, we could. Start them early enough. Yeah, that's a good idea, Cody. That is a good idea, honestly. I don't know today. Today, no one's fighting me. That's annoying me. I don't like to be the one to declare war, because I like the prestige from being declared war on and winning. But so far, no one's rising to my provocations. It's almost as if I'm so massive they refuse to be provoked by me. It's terrible. I need to cut more ships so they'll feel that they'll actually fight me. 102,000 times 10 is 1 in 20,000. So yeah. So I will have plenty of space in Plymouth for them all to be selected. Run on, you actually let out the coal mines? At 21? Who was this generous to you? And why? Why? Seems far too overly friendly to do so. Far too overly friendly. I'm afraid this week's going to be a bit disappointing because I've just had a message come through. Go, can you please grab the washing in before it starts raining? So I'm probably going to end the stream a little bit early and go off and order food while getting the washing in. Because apparently it's about to start raining and someone hung the washing out this morning. It was not me, but it looks like I'll be grabbing it. I don't know. I love them dearly, but they do sometimes. They carry on in their own world. I don't know. See you in a bit. See you at Brew Ships later. I'm sure Night 681 will have many, many questions. And I'll be packing books and answering questions, as has been the usual scenario for the last few weeks, because there are more books. There are lots of books around here. There are lots of books. Oh. Excellent. Thank you, Roshan. Take care, and thank you, Jacob, Runon, Leslie, Paul, Steve, Cody, everyone who's been here, Wayne, who's been here chatting away. It's been lovely to have you. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Thank you, Jonathan. Toodles.